Well, Marina Ottaway, as I mentioned in the introduction, you talked last year with us almost a year ago as Mubarak was on his way out, and you said, now, wait a minute, this is exciting, but the regime is fundamentally still in place. Now, 1 year on, so much has happened. Euphoria of the youth has given way now to elections. We see now a rise in the Islamist parties, particularly the Muslim Brotherhood. How would you evaluate the revolution 1 year on?
First of all, I think it's important not to call it a revolution. There has been an uprising, there has been important change, but a revolution is something much more fundamental. And we still don't know whether in the end this will be a revolution or not. The situation now is, we are still in the middle of a transition, and the transition had turned into a four-way struggle between the military, that is, and parts of the old regimes that are still intact, the Islamist parties, the secular parties, and the protesters in the street. And there is a very difficult fight going on among these four political groups.
Let's take a look at the results of the recent parliamentary elections. Characterize those for us with the predominantly Muslim parties, or rather Islamist parties.
The results are quite clear. The majority of Egyptians back the Islamist parties. Half of all Egyptians voted for the Freedom and Justice Party, which is essentially the Muslim Brotherhood. But very surprising, another 22% voted for a Salafi party, that is, for a radical Islamist political organization that has a much more clear agenda of imposing Sharia on the society. The secular parties, on the other hand, both liberal parties and kind of left-of-center parties, did very poor. Among all of them, they only got about 25% of the vote.
Notwithstanding the fact that the Muslim Brotherhood and perhaps these Salafi parties were very well organized, having been given that chance during the years of Mubarak, how do you explain their success as opposed to the more secular parties spearheaded by the youth?
Right. Well, first of all, just one point or two. The Salafis did not have a lot of time to organize. The Salafis were never participated in the election process, so that their organizing as a electoral party only took place in the last few months. They did not have any more time than the liberal parties, and in fact, some of the liberal parties go back to the 1920s, like the Wafd party. So it's not quite true that the Islamists had the time and the liberals did not. The liberal parties had two problems. One, they did not find a language that the majority of people in Egypt understood. What they were talking about was very abstract, was very much in terms of, we need this constitutional amendment, this change to the constitution, and so on. The Islamist parties had a language about justice, about, changing the society for the better. In many ways, they were using themes that are very reminiscent of the themes of all the leftist political parties in Europe. There is too much inequality in the society. The society is not a just society. They refer that back to Islam because Islam calls for justice, but it was very simple language that people could understand. And secondly, they really devoted effort to political organizing. The liberal parties were a disaster on that. Election observers who were there, American who were there, for example, in Upper Egypt, came back saying, no wonder the Islamists won. The liberal parties were just not there. There was not one poster, there was not one campaigner to be seen. Of course the Islamists won.